Welcome to Advertising Champions, your go-to destination for insights into the dynamic world of advertising. I'm your host, Tony Stanol, and today we're with David Bishop of David Bishop Culinary Content. Welcome, David.
Hi, thanks for the invite.
Now, you are a master photographer. You're very experienced, but you're doing hospitality shooting these days. But you didn't start there, right? You started with some packaged goods. Why don't you take us through that really quickly?
Okay, I'll do it as quickly as I possibly can. I started off in photography, shooting catalogs, thousands for Macy's and all the major catalog companies. I'd have to put some cake on a cake plate and shoot it. And I started working with food stylists who were just incredibly talented. Food and Wine magazine and Bon Appetit picked up my work, and they found that what I was doing in terms of lighting and dimensionality in my light was trend setting, and so that's what they're looking for. They want trendsetters. So I transitioned from editorial, which was a lot of fun but didn't pay as much, into advertising, and the advertisers really pursued my work because it was effective.
Very, very cool. Now, and then you transitioned into doing more work with in hospitality, so food and beverage.
That's right.
Outlets, and compare and contrast the two. Doing food shooting, for a company versus a hotel or restaurant.
Oh my, it's so completely different. I mean, advertisers want to project a brand, and so there's a lot of back and forth about how to define that brand, but primarily what they're looking for are sales, and so it's important that your work has an impact on the sales. But creating food for packaging is a very different thing than hospitality. I decided I wanted to do hospitality because I wanted to work more with the creators of cuisine as opposed to the imitators. I did very, very well in New York. In fact, my friends think I'm crazy for leaving. I left at my peak, and I wanted to work with chefs directly, and create imagery that they would be proud of. And I'm now using many of the same techniques, the lighting techniques that enhance food with 17th century light. That I did with advertising.
And describe that. You mentioned that to me before before we started rolling here. 17th century light, is that pre-light bulb?
Yes, very much so. So the 17th century Dutch artists were actually the first that were even permitted to paint anything other than religious iconography. And so what they did was they did everyday life, the butcher in the butcher stall and the milkmaid and those famous things. But they were also equally famous for their food paintings and flowers, of course. And there's a reason, if you ever go to Amsterdam, for example, there's a reason why people sit and stare at those paintings. There's a quality in that work that is it's just hypnotic. They use a composition that brings your eye back to the subject that they want you to look at. They understand the difference between highlight and shadow and where to place those things and how that creates dimension. It pops off the canvas. And so my work does the same thing. And I use that I call it in photography a hypnotic composition, because you can create that design that moves the viewer around the composition to see all the different elements, but then it settles on the single item that is probably the most important, element. And that is something that I learned through collaboration with the chef. It's usually the protein or the sauce or that sort of thing. And so I work with that.
That's very, very interesting, David. Now, I took a look at your work. I don't know if I pulled it off your LinkedIn profile, but your portfolio is gorgeous. Tell people where they could take a look at examples of the work that you do.
Well, those are two of the best sources. My website is dbishop, that's DBISHOP.net. And that's where you'll find the greatest selection of imagery.
Thank you for being with us today, David. I learned a lot from about the 17th century light and hypnotic photography. So thank you.
Of course, Tony, and thank you again.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Advertising Champions. Be sure to find more information about our podcast at dailynewsnetwork.com, and we'll see you next time.
We've been around for 16 years, working with clients, with thousands of clients. We're working with agencies to be able to scale them and grow them and provide them services that would cost them way more than it would for them to do it themselves. Anything oriented around lead generation, video creation, web design, we're full service, so we can really serve most people.